A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, it is a period of neon, backstabbing, and hurricanes, both storms and alcoholic. A collection of overbearing, over-emotional, over-entitled brats get together for the storm of a lifetime. But when the lights go out, true colors will be revealed as the bodies start to pile up. This movie was rated R for violence, bloody images, drug use, sexual references, and pervasive language, and our subsequent discussions will entail much of the same. Please proceed according to your needs and comfort level. Hello there, and welcome back to 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. I'm your host, Sam Marchioni. Joining me today, Jasmine Garcia.
I still require 1 to 2 business days to recover from that plot twist.
Ellie McConaughey.
Ellie McConaughey's parents were upper middle class.
And Grady Smithy.
I just came here to record a podcast, and honestly, I feel so attacked right now.
Welcome to Degree 2, Amanda Stenberg, lead of The Acolyte. To celebrate, we are taking a look at Bodies. Was it the Inherent Vice episode where I said Ellie movies have at least one of 3 characteristics? They are weird, gay, and long?
Yeah, I think that was the one that was where you said that.
So this does not qualify for long, but weird and gay, yes.
I am so mad at whoever did the ad campaign for this movie, because they did it so dirty. I nearly missed this one. Now I've been hyping it up for 2 years.
I mean, as soon as it started with the girls kissing, I was like, oh, we're off to a bang-up start.
Yep, it's an Ellie movie.
Toxic lesbians, everyone. Oh, so toxic.
Yeah, no, girls, there's no coming back from this. Go ahead and break up.
I was surprised that none of you went for your intro. Like, I knew I was doing the upper middle class line because it's the best line read of 2022. But I was surprised no one went with
A podcast takes a lot of work, okay? You have to organize the guests, you have to do a Google Calendar, and you build a following. It takes a lot of time, and I've been working on it for a while.
Grady kind of went for it, but that entire thing just felt like too much of a call-out.
Every time they mentioned the podcast, I got uncomfortable.
I love that scene so much. It's such an unpleasant scene. And, like, watching these people shift from, like, you know, real, sincere, actual harm to, like, incredibly petty bullshit just to try to get themselves out of the hot seat. Oh, that scene. I was howling the first time I saw it.
Every single one of you is awful, and I loved watching you self-destruct. Not since The Thing have I seen a group of people get this paranoid with each other. And to find out it was for such a stupid reason.
It was totally Tumblr argument, the movie, and I loved it.
Oof.
I guess I need to watch more murder mystery movies, because the point of comparison I'm going to is like the fucking Benoit Blanc movies, and y'all know I have complicated feelings about Rian Johnson, but he really, really loves that whole cast of super hateable characters who are all awful for different reasons, and then one lower class heart of gold person who's just desperate to survive these fucking assholes. It's very much that vibe as well.
I wouldn't necessarily say our one lower class person has a heart of gold, necessarily. But, yeah.
It's the closest one, because, like...
She's trying, I guess.
They did do a good job of making it look like she was trying to single white female her girlfriend for a while, though.
So, like, what struck me about that scene, and, like, I say this in something... I wrote something about bodies, like, right after seeing it a couple years ago. And what I like about that scene is, like, no one is really trying to to own up to their mistakes and like make amends. They're all just literally trying to get someone else under scrutiny because like that's what it actually matters. This I don't know if this movie came out before the proliferation of the like not beating the whatever allegations, but that's what this movie feels like, not beating the whatever allegations of the movie. And
okay, actually, I take it back. The person with the heart of gold in this movie is fucking Lee Pace.
yeah, Lee Pace is a
Ironically.
nice guy. But B is the only character who actually like, yeah, I fucked up. I'm really sorry. I don't think it, but can we talk about it? And then immediately they're like, no, we're just gonna use this to attack you, and then it just sets everything off.
And literally throw her out into a hurricane. These people are monsters.
People are fucking monsters. B, your wife does not respect you. B, you need better.
Yeah, no, like I said, no one will blame you for dumping her ass.
But you're right. Benoit Blanc, I don't feel is a good comparison point. It actually feels very much like a And Then There Were None kind of movie, which I guess is one of the...
With a little splash of Scream, almost?
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are things I have not seen.
There we are.
You know what to do. Put them in the innator. Make me watch stuff, damn it. Make me cultured.
I'm trying to think of the name of the movie. Rian Johnson specifically named it as an inspiration. It's literally just about a bunch of rich people on a boat. One of them gets murdered, and it turns out like the main rich guy is just like fucking with all of them.
Yep, I read it back in high school.
It's like what remains of something.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, and then there were
some
none.
person.
But yeah, you're right. It's no boat involved. I don't know why I said that.
And Then There Were None was on an island.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And also originally had a much more racist title.
Yes, it
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time since I've read it.
Oh my god. I can't even say stuff like that now without thinking about fucking Alice. I wrote in my notes like, oh my god, am I like this all the time? Am I this obnoxious?
No.
No wonder my family hates me.
No.
My family doesn't hate me, but I'm the reason my family doesn't talk politics at holidays.
In fairness, like, it's not like you're wrong if you're talking the politics thing.
If we're shitting on Alice, and we should shit on Alice because she sucks. He's a vet. Rachel Sennott is like rapidly becoming one of those actresses who can just like make any line read funny for me. I don't know what it is.
She's got a gift.
I don't know if I'm gonna see that SNL movie thing that Jason Reitman's doing, but I'm very curious to see like clips of her performance because of what I've seen her in, and to be clear, I have seen her in this and Bottoms. Does she always play hateable? Because in my experience of her so far, she is very, very good at playing the most loathsome little brats.
She's more sympathetic in Shiva Baby. I don't know if that means she's like a good person, but she is a sympathetic character in that movie. As for Saturday Night, Jason Reitman's made good movies. Yeah. Not in the last like 10 years, but he used to.
Jesus.
Oh boy, it's gonna be a whole thing if we ever talk about any of the Ghostbusters movies made in this century.
I'm out. I have no Ghostbusters opinions. Goodbye.
Oh no. It's kind of hard to think about talking about this movie because, like, when you're talking about a murder mystery, you don't really want to spoil the murder mystery, right?
Right, but also I feel like we kind of have to talk about it. I mean, I feel like just inherently, since this is a movie review podcast, we kind of have to talk about it.
Okay, so listeners, spoilers, by the time we put this up, I watched this movie on Hoopla. It's probably not going to be on Hoopla by the time this goes up, but, have at it.
Hoopla, Canopy, it is technically on Netflix, supposedly.
It was. That's where I watched it.
Yeah, go nuts with that before you keep listening to us continue to talk.
Like I said, I need 1 to 2 business days to process the fact all of this stupid shit started because of a fucking TikTok meme and a sword in the hands of an idiot.
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson was like the king of throwing stones in his fucking glass house before his death.
I mean, that is your ideal use of Pete Davidson, really. He's in the movie for 20 minutes, he's incredibly annoying, then he dies in a really stupid way.
Was this before or after he was fucking his way through, like, all of the women in...
He started that before he made this movie.
Yeah, it was already kind of an established joke.
Yeah, it was like, he was with Ariana Grande, I want to say, like, back in 2019 or 2018 or something.
Yeah, that was, like, pre-pandemic.
It was the embodiment of the Joe Jackson song, Is She Really Going Out With Him?
Yeah, it is wild that Greg is actually kind of likable, given it is a little weird he's dating a girl this young. Let's not tiptoe around it. But it's also kind of weird Pete Davidson is apparently in this friend group. He does not read as around their age at all.
He was probably on his 7th year of college when he met them.
Well, no, because, like, Amanda's character Sophie says they've basically been friends since preschool.
5 years older than Amanda Stenberg, but...
He does not read that way at all.
No. He's like, what's his face in Dear Evan Hansen? He just kind of reads as 45 years old.
Oh, God, don't... Why? What? Amanda's in that, too, God damn it.
Yeah, they are.
Nobody make me do that. Nobody make me do that.
I have no
Sam?
desire to watch that movie again.
Sam, I love you too much to do that to you. But, like I wrote, but before I realized he was going to be among the first victims, Pete Davidson makes Billy Loomis look like he was good at hiding his killer tendencies.
I mean, I knew right off the bat Lee Pace was supposed to be like a red herring, because you're right, it is kind of creepy for a guy who's in his 40s to be dating a 20-year-old. Leo.
To be fair, he is a Virgo rising. That means a lot.
First of all, it was a Libra moon.
Sorry.
In terms of astrology, your moon sign typically is about your emotional state. So if you're a Libra moon, that generally means that you have like a balanced approach to your emotions.
Number 1, Ellie, fake fan apparently. Number 2, you got them started.
Sam, this is the one arena in which I'm extremely bad lesbian. People tell me about star signs, my brain just like shuts off.
I want to be clear, I'm not trying to make fun of you, Sam. I'm sorry. Did I come
Yeah,
off
I'm not
meaner?
making fun of like people who know star signs. Just like I can't, my brain does not process it at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Look,
Sam. I'm not.
We don't have time to get into my complicated relationship with magic as both a faith system and as an understanding of oneself in a psychological position in terms of your connection to the universe and the energies therein. I know I sound like I'm doing crazy cult babble right now.
No, you're not. You're not. I'm sorry. That was meaner than I wanted it to be. I'm sorry.
This movie is infecting us.
Yeah.
Ah!
Well, that's sort of like the reason I watched this movie and felt like so incredibly called out is because like here's a very odd comparison point, and I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. Did anyone besides me see last year's Nicolas Cage movie Dream Scenario?
No.
I still need
That's
to.
the one where he's like popping up in people's dreams, right?
Right.
Sorry,
And
what?
so like the reason that movie and this movie are both metaphorically about the way the internet turns on people without actually having the internet involved, which is why I think they work. And so like if you view this final confrontation before the last couple people around die as like kind of like a cancel circle, it starts to feel like I do feel called out by that, because like there are moments where like you just want to like accuse someone else of something just so that everyone's not looking at you anymore.
Or it just makes you feel better about yourself, because unfortunately there is a lot of people who will weaponize therapy language and leftist terms in order to make themselves look better than everybody else. Those are the worst
when
kinds of
Pete
people.
goes on that rant about like gaslighting, like, oh, what are you gonna call me, a white supremacist, cisgender
narcissist.
male now?
Yep.
I'm like, you're not exactly helping your case right now.
Nope.
Right. That was what was so fun to me about that scene, because like he was right. People do use that word really flippantly.
Yep.
But like, man, and again, he's attacked and he starts like going on the defensive in ways that are not helping.
Going on the defensive, and then leaves in a very ragey way that makes him come off as an abusive dickhead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's very much an everyone sucks here kind of situation.
It is. This group of characters are all extremely awful people. I did really like Jordan shooting Alice, and then like, no, I didn't.
Like, Jordan, what are you talking about? We all saw it.
That was when you wanted me to put the "we both reached for the gun" meme?
Yes. Or really that whole sequence deserves a "we both reached for the gun." Because, like, it's just constantly fighting over the stupid gun. And it's just like,
I mean, I would have argued the pool scene at the end is more "we both reached for the gun," but...
That's also fair. Like, all of these could work very well. It's just like, good lord.
But also, I need a fucking floor plan of this house. I need, like, a map or something, because the architecture, geography, whatever you want to call it, made no fucking sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
In fairness, nobody here is sober. In spite of the fact that Sophie had no business not being sober.
Oh, Sophie. Sophie, honey.
Sophie, honey.
I mean, that's another reason to break up. Sophie's probably going back to rehab.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm. You're both gonna need some therapy. I mean, like, so what struck me, and I'm kind of like get too deep in the weeds here, is like, you know, Sophie and B are kind of a united front against everyone else, right up until there's no one else for them to be against, at which point that's when they finally fracture. And like, I don't know, that's not really a relationship that can work anymore. Like, regardless of whether or not Sophie cheated on her, man.
I mean, except for the part where Sophie lets them lock her girlfriend outside during a hurricane.
Yeah, that was rough.
Like, I just kept on looking at Sophie, just like, why are you not saying anything?
Do something.
Sophie absolutely did cheat on her.
Yeah, you don't avoid giving somebody your phone if you didn't do
something wrong.
It's the bathing suit. The bathing suit is the proof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Regardless of whether or not, like, any cheating happened, you know, if my girlfriend lets me get locked out during a hurricane, or if my girlfriend points a gun at me to get my phone from me, like, no, that relationship's over. It's dead.
We're done.
Oh my god, poor Max.
Max just walking up. What up?
I have reception. Really? That's your best answer?
I mean, what else can you say at that point?
What a disaster.
I have a question, because do y'all remember that fucking controversy of the New York Times review where Lena Wilson was a complete, racist asshole to Amanda Stenberg?
Yeah, that was crazy.
I'm really confused by it now, because I don't remember that much emphasis on Amanda's boobs in this movie.
Not at all. There were there wasn't actually really that much emphasis on boobs, unless you count one of them wearing a bikini, but the only one who was more than just one of them wearing a bikini, but if anything, I think Alice's boobs were more emphasized. Or was it Emma's? I can't remember anymore.
Emma was the one in, like, the little corset dress. But yeah, I don't understand how this movie is, to quote Wilson's review, a 95-minute advertisement for cleavage in Charlie XCX's latest single.
Charlie XCX I don't think was in this. I don't think any of her songs were in this. What are you talking about? Hot Girl was in the film somewhere, apparently. I mean, I think that speaks for itself that I didn't even recognize it, considering the fact Charlie XCX is a pretty recognizable voice in pop music.
Yeah, I mean, in 2022, I was continuously blasting basically nothing but Six the Musical, but
you know,
y'all know how basic I am about this.
No, it's okay. But, like, yeah, no, like, I loved Boom Clap when it first came out, so I would have recognized her voice.
And now we're in Brat Summer.
Yes, we are in Brat Summer. So, yeah, Lena Wilson, I think you're just racist and out of your mind.
It was such a weird thing, because, like, it was a shitty-ass review, and then, like, Amanda contacts her privately to, look, I have a pretty constant, like, opinion about this. If you're famous, you can't clap back at reviewers. Like, it's just not something you can do. That was a shitty racist review, but you probably just shouldn't do it. But doing it privately is the way to do it. And then she, like, tweeted about it?
Yeah, and also, I'm sorry, after everything Amanda was already going through since they were, like, 12 years old, I will give them a pass on that.
Yeah, it was just such a weird moment, and, like, no one handled it well, and It was just a shitty review. Like, why was that your? I don't feel like I mean, I was a teenage. Uh, there's some debate about what my gender was when I was a teenager. Uh, I've watched a lot of shitty ass horror movies. This is not even in like the top 50 most nudity I've seen. I don't even think anyone gets their tits out.
I can assure you, no one did. As the
Yeah, no.
token heterosexual guy here, I would have noticed.
Listen, we're all, and all of the femme people do like women as well. We would have definitely noticed.
Grady, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Someone did get their tits out. Lee Pace.
Oh, point. Well, as for why I didn't notice that, please refer to previous
Wait,
remarks.
did Pete Davidson also have his titties out?
He did not know.
Not even in the pool scene when they were all like underwater?
Well, maybe that. Well,
Maybe
I guess that does count.
I mean, I guess it didn't make much of an impact because, Lee Pace was there. And I'm sorry, on what fucking planet does any character who looks like Pete Davidson think he's hotter than Lee Pace?
There's no way.
don't
There's
know.
no way.
On planet insecurity.
Ooh.
Mm.
Like I said, glass houses. David is the king of throwing stones in glass houses. But also, this is probably Lee Pace's least attractive character as somebody who's been a fan since Pushing Daisies. Even before she even watched Pushing Daisies.
I'm sorry, you think he's more attractive playing an unremarkable villain in Marvel movies?
He was in Marvel movies?
He was the main bad guy in Guardians of the Galaxy with the big stupid hammer.
Oh, because I definitely wouldn't recognize him in that.
Also, he was in a fucking Twilight movie. Goddamn, I fucking hate remembering that was a thing.
He was in world classic film The Book of Henry.
Okay, but he was probably hot in that.
He was actually Dr. Hottie in that movie, yeah.
Dr. Hottie.
Lee Pace, I'm sorry. I know you've had to go through some shit with people objectifying you and being shitty about your personal life and forcing you to come out, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, listen, we respect you as an actor. You just also have to be incredibly attractive.
Mm-hmm,
You're a
very
good
actor.
bean, Lee Pace.
Yes.
We
With
love
very
you.
good eyebrows.
But,
Yes.
but if I'm gonna thirst over Rachel Sennott in this movie, I also have to thirst over you. It's equality. Actually, I'm thirsting over most of the cast, Pete Davidson aside. I don't get Pete Davidson. He's just not my kind of guy,
No,
I feel.
I think I'm too sapphic for him.
You can definitely tell that this was like a COVID-era movie just based on the tiny cast.
Oh, yeah.
Tiny cast, single location.
A lot of scenes of people alone, too.
Mm-hmm. Which, works with the theme of the film. Like, they are all, regardless of whether or not they're friends, they are all kind of, like, isolated.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, they say they're friends. Do any of these people even really like each other?
It's a very
Like-
high school attitude when you think about it, because I feel like a lot of people, when they have high school friends, it's mostly just due to proximity. And given the fact that a lot of these people have known each other since they were even younger, it kind of just gives off the idea that they haven't really shaken off those old ties, and this is where it all blows up, and unfortunately there's a really high body count with it.
A body count.
Hey.
Nice.
I'm coming for your crown, Grady.
It actually kind of struck me on this rewatch, like, why, Sophie, did you cheat on your girlfriend? Your girlfriend seems to be the only person in this group who likes you. Like, you cheated on her with Jordan. Jordan does not seem to like you, and you do not seem to like Jordan particularly.
Jordan is awful.
Jordan sucks so bad.
I truly cannot fathom not only why anybody in this group would hang out with Jordan, but, like, why Jordan exists as a character in this.
I mean, like, her role in the story basically amounts to that line from Rachel Sennott. Like, she is, in our broad satire of different kinds of shitty rich people, she's the person who is like, oh, I was so poor growing up, and then you find out her parents were college professors. Is that a Kanye joke?
Okay, so, like, if you're going to be a professor at a public university, it's going to depend a lot on A, what subject you're teaching, B, how well funded the public university is, C, where said public university is located. Like, a teacher in a physics department at, like, the University of Houston probably making more than a teacher at UMass Amherst teaching poetry, but it also, depends on tenured versus not tenured versus adjunct faculty. It's a whole thing.
Right, but
I don't even know where these people are supposed to be. Like, they're in a hurricane, which to me suggests one of the Carolinas, but they filmed this in Chappaqua, New York.
Yeah, I was gonna say it read like mid-state New York to me, and we get hurricanes here sometimes.
I was gonna say, as the local Floridian.
It definitely doesn't read like Florida to me. It
Too many. What do they call the trees that drop their leaves in the fall?
deciduous.
That is true, yeah.
No, like
Too much tree in general to be Florida.
Honestly, I think a good comparison point is Get Out for how it felt. Like maybe it's just because I live, in Fairfield County, Connecticut, and I lived in Westchester County for a while. Like, but it feels like a variety of New York City rich people who you just kind of fucking hate. I don't. But on the other hand, they talk about driving a lot, which if they were New York City rich people, I don't know anyone who drives in New York City.
Absolutely not. We are probably speaking a very different language from Grady. Grady's in Texas.
Yeah.
We have to drive
And
everywhere.
Yeah. And also, you're not really in the part of Texas that gets hurricanes, right? Like, you're not in the
Thankfully,
Houston
no.
area.
I give it like 6 years.
When Houston finally sinks into the Gulf, yeah, probably then.
If Houston sinks into the Gulf, do you think that means I get a refund on my college loans for University of Houston?
No, you'll still owe on them. You'll just be underwater.
I was say, like, he doesn't make the underwater debt joke there. Good job.
I left the door wide open. Unlike Jordan and Alice when they were pushing B out into the hurricane.
Seriously, what the fuck was that?
What the fuck was that? You know what's another movie that I feel like this reminded me a lot of, and I hadn't seen this the first time I saw it. Have any of you seen All My Friends Hate Me?
No, but you could have titled this movie that and nobody would have blinked.
Right. It's kind of it's not quite a social anxiety horror. Like, I think that people describing this movie as a horror movie are kind of lying to you. It's more of a dark comedy. I mean, it didn't scare me at all, did it? Am I crazy?
No, it's not even that. It's
there's
just
like a couple of jump scares that make me go,
it's so slasher coded. I see why it's categorized as a horror movie.
Yeah, it just ratchets up the tension.
I mean, it is like the whole party game becomes a horror scenario. That's a tried and tested trope.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Among Us. Remember when Among Us was like the most popular thing in early pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a review on Letterboxd that basically is like A24's Among Us.
I will be honest, there are times when my Among Us games get this petty and personal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, that's why that's part of why I made the Thing connection, because both of those are films that very much are based off of this is a group of people who do not trust each other the minute they realize, oh, one of you might be meaning us all harm.
Should we play Among Us at some point?
I think we should. It's been a while.
I'd be down for that.
And this was definitely very reminiscent of some of the more tense games of Werewolf that I've played at stuff. Which, if anyone hasn't heard about this, it's a game where two of you get cards saying that you're werewolves. Everybody else gets a card. And the base thing just saying you're villagers. Everybody closes their eyes. The werewolves choose one person by making eye contact with whoever's running it, pointing at them. They get told, you're dead. And then everyone has to try and vote the werewolves out.
Yep,
we called that Mafia when I was growing up.
Yeah,
it's the same concept. Exact same concept. Just a more fantastical spin.
Yeah, like Bodies as a game is basically a mix between Tag and Werewolf.
Yeah.
For me, Werewolf was the one where everybody went around shaking hands, and if somebody scratched the inside of your palm, that meant they were the werewolf, and that killed you.
Yes.
Do I just miss going to summer camp?
Maybe.
I mean, there's a theme hotel up in New Hampshire that has like a haunted castle room and stuff, and now all I really want to do is get a bunch of friends and go up there and like play D&D, but also play like all the games I played at camp. And hopefully none of us will be in the situation that this movie presents, but like,
If we do get in that situation, I just want to remind everyone I'm an ally.
oh no.
That was really Pete Davidson and what's her name, Emma, the one who
Yeah.
died. Their mistake was like showing up to a party where everyone but them is queer.
Yeah.
Wait, is Rachel Sennott bi?
Wasn't Emma, like, didn't she and Sophie do a thing together? Not just the pills, but like, I don't know. This friend group has such weird incestuous vibes.
You're not wrong.
Like, it's almost as toxic as like the friends in Friends or How I Met Your Mother. Like, everybody's dating everybody, everybody's way too involved in each other's baggage, and it's way too personal.
How I Met Your Mother is such a fascinating show to me, especially if we use it in like comparison to this one, because like people would describe that show to me as like their comfort show. And I watched it, I'm like, this is the most uncomfortable TV show I've ever watched in my life. Because all four of them are five, all of them. I don't know how many of them they're fucking are. They're all just fucking awful people. But the show refuses to treat them like awful people.
Ooh.
I mean, that's also true of pretty much all the friends in Friends.
I've
It's
never
just-
watched a second of Friends.
You are fortunate.
I would bet hands down that most of the people who say How I Met Your Mother is their comfort show, it was a show they watched when they were teenagers or preteens and they grew up with the 9 fucking seasons of the show.
Yeah. And then we're vastly disappointed by the finale.
Well,
Oh,
I'm not
God,
opposed to like toxic shows being your comfort show. You know, Seinfeld is one of my comfort shows, but Seinfeld is aware that its characters are shitty, awful people, and that's part of what makes it fun. Like, it treats them like shitty, awful people.
Actually, this is a kind of a perfect time to bring up a discussion point I really want to talk about, because this movie kind of does have so many traits of like really shitty slashers from like the aughts and even the late 90s to a certain degree, where it's basically just all these terrible people that you want to see killed, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But those are always so disparaged, while this movie is really, really fucking good. Well, again, those kind of slashers were part of what kept me from the genre for as long as I was. So what is it about this movie that works compared to those?
Grady, you were there when Final Girls started becoming a thing. Grant us your elder wisdom.
Well, it does do a good job of giving us the possibility of B as a final girl, which she isn't, of course, because the whole thing about being the final girl is all the other girls got killed. And yeah, they do great fake outs, because that's one of the things that the good slasher movies always included, was stuff that actually I think I've got an example that is not a horror movie, but that all of y'all should be familiar with, about how it sets expectations just so that it can completely swerve. Remember the scary old neighbor in Home Alone?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Who is presented in a way that makes him look like an obvious threat to Kevin, but at the end is the one who comes and saves Kevin. That's the sort of thing that the good examples of the slasher genre have. You think you're going to have some horrific act of violence, but it's just somebody's boyfriend playing a really badly timed prank on his girlfriend, that sort of thing. Or, you know, you've got the weird guy next door who saves you at the end, that sort of thing. And it's just sorry, one of the things I love about this movie is they set it up to keep you guessing, and also they keep throwing clues at you fast enough to try and prevent you from guessing what the actual cause of death is.
That's actually so astute. Yeah, I like that.
A good slasher movie has at least one, if not more, really good fake outs. But it's not a slasher movie. It's a movie about how once somebody goes a little bit too far outside of the social compact, everyone just turns on them.
For sure, yeah.
I was only half joking when I called this Tumblr argument the movie, because the reason I went and saw this I saw the trailer with the clips of them using the weaponized social justice language, and I'm like, holy shit. It's the stuff that I see almost every day on that hell site.
I mean, like, as someone who's gotten Tumblr called out for extremely stupid reasons before, like, it is kind of like that. And maybe that's one of the reasons I felt so called out by the by the way everyone was just trying to get the spotlight off them. The slasher comparison is actually something that I noted. I have in my notes somewhere here that, like, something I've noticed about modern slashers is that they can never just be a slasher anymore. You know, it's a slasher, but it's also Freaky Friday. It's a slasher, but it's also Groundhog Day. It's a slasher, but it's also a reincarnation romance.
Hey, I will not hear you disparage Happy Death Day, ma'am.
I like all of those movies I just named.
Good.
Like I'm saying,
it also like it has to be a deconstruction of the slasher, you know. Like, again, it has to break down all those problematic tropes. I'm not mocking any individual thing, because for the most part, I don't watch slasher movies. I have a very low tolerance for horror in general. I'm still shocked I made it all the way through. I saw the TV Glow, but...
Yay, proud of you.
I mean, that movie's not like jump out scare you. It's like, wow, I've wasted my life scary.
Yeah, but oof. The point I'm trying to make is that we're in an age right now where the nostalgic cycles, I think, are catching up to us, and we're all so desperate to prove how smart we are because, you know, we were told that we had to be smart. We were told we had to go to college. We were told that this shit mattered. And so now you've got us all weighed down by a bunch of student debt trying to make a point about, like, no, I swear I'm smart. My degree has a purpose. See? I deconstructed the slasher myth by, please give me student loan forgiveness.
Oh,
I mean, slasher movies have been deconstructing themselves since, someone, I don't remember who referenced Scream a few minutes ago. That would be me.
Of course it was me.
That's 96.
Yeah.
You know.
Arguably 92 with New Nightmare.
Yeah, you can probably go back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre too if you wanted to really be pretentious about it, which I do. If I had to point to why slashers are like that right now, is that horror movies are very fast to make, they're very cheap, and they are very prone to trend chasing. You know, after Scream, everyone was a slasher parody, and then The Ring came out, so everything was a J-horror remake, and then Saw came out, and we fucking wasted the entire 2000s on that. So, a couple of really good examples came out. Freaky came out, Happy Death Day came out, the Fear Street movies came out. Now everyone's chasing that vibe if you're making a slasher. And a lot of them are bad, but some of them are good. And I guess that's just kind of always how horror has been. I think if you're going to do a deconstruction of a slasher where there was no slasher and the monster is all of the victims' internal hatred of their friends is something.
Now that you mention it, I'm reminded of a classic Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the one where you've got this nice little suburban neighborhood with the nice little suburban families that have all their nice little suburban friendships, and then suddenly the power dies.
Yeah.
And they don't know what's going on, and then one family, their lights come on, and so they start turning on them, and that family starts pointing fingers at everybody else trying to redirect them. I'm not saying it's the exact same story, but it is the exact same theme of how desperation can make you a monster.
And of course, the twist ending is aliens did that specifically to see if that would happen. I read that script in an English class once.
Uh-huh.
Oh god, this is also like the fucking Hunger Games Songbirds and Snake. I haven't even seen that movie or read that book, but that fucking meme of Predator and Prey. I blame you for this, Jazz. I blame you.
Why would you blame me for this?
For putting it in my head with the whole YA... I may have re-listened to our YA dystopian in our retelling thing recently.
Oh, that was you. Okay.
If I told all of you that the person who came up with the story for this movie, did not write the screenplay, but wrote the story, is the person who wrote Cat Person for the New York Times a few years back, would that make this movie make more sense?
I have not seen that one.
It's a short story. You should read it. It's unpleasant.
To be clear, you're talking about Kristen Rupenian?
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of this person. I've heard of Sarah DeLapp because The Wolves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Mare who did that play recently. But, she's one of us. She's from Boston.
Northeast Coast represent!
Oh, boy.
Just the build-up of everyone just fucking turning on each other. And the thing is, you kind of see the writing on the wall from the get-go, because it's just like, you seem a little too, like, your eagerness to run up and greet her, there's just something that already feels so fake pretty much from the get-go about how they interact with each other.
And the conversation about the fucking group text.
Yeah.
God, I hate group texts. We have
this is
so many group texts now, and you have to be very careful about which group text is what. I would have, honestly, I think a missed opportunity for a joke was that, no, Sophie didn't reply to the group text, she replied to the WhatsApp.
Oh, I could see that happening.
Or she replied to the Facebook Messenger or the Discord. Like,
I could see
something
that happening.
to acknowledge that we in Gen Z have like 50 different texting apps at any given point.
And you could end up having two very separate conversations with one of your friends on those two different messaging apps. And it's ridiculous. Why do we do this to ourselves? So yeah.
Because technology divides us and makes us put ourselves in little boxes.
And they're all made out of ticky-tacky, and they all look just the same.
Oof.
Yep, and when you take away our little idiot boxes, we become animals.
Yep, like it was borderline Lord of the Flies in that house.
Yeah, I guess this is the repudiation of the, you can't make Lord of the Flies with girls, because girls aren't like that. I'm like, motherfucker, if you take away our phones, we might be.
So Lord of the Flies is such a complicated work in history because like a lot of it gets misinterpreted. But like you could absolutely make Lord of the Flies with women. It's called Mean Girls. Like the basic,
don't give Tina Fey that credit.
the basic premise is that there is an inherent violent cruelty to men that does not exist in women. It's like one of those weird turf talking points. It just makes me incredibly uncomfortable.
Oh god, yep.
Like, yes, Lord of the Flies was pretty much intended to be specifically about entitled little boys that go absolutely wild as soon as there's no authority figures, but that doesn't mean we're completely incapable of going that feral.
No, I would bet money on it. If anybody in that friend group ended up being a TERF, it would be Jordan.
I was gonna say. Yeah,
that's fair. God, Jordan sucks so much.
She really does, like, in a very sneaky way. It's interesting you mentioned Mean Girls, because, no, there's very much a Regina George vibe to her.
Really, I would have said she has, if we're going with the Mean Girls comparison, I would have said she has a Janice vibe.
I mean,
because
like,
she feels like she's consistently acting like she's too good for all of this.
That's fair.
And I'm like, then why are you here?
And the thing is, it's probably because of said superiority complex, because how can you have a superiority complex if you don't surround yourself with people you feel are inferior?
The central point, I guess, of the movie is that, like, a lot of groups, you know, I don't remember who, I think it was Sophie who decided that B needed to be, like, kicked out of the house, right?
Sophie didn't decide it. She just let it happen to her. She just kind of sat there.
No, Jordan is who I was thinking of.
Yeah, Jordan definitely.
Jordan is the one who decided, and like you can see that that's like applying pressure to fracture a relationship. But I think if the movie has a point about that, like you can't apply that kind of pressure without the cracks going places you don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Greg, he didn't deserve that.
Shockingly, no. He was like the least awful person there, in spite of, again, how creepy the age gap is.
He was just chilling in the gym with his light therapy mask.
I did love the bit about how they thought he was a veteran, and it turns out he was a veterinarian.
Then why did you call him G.I. Joe?
Oh, good.
Alice is just kind of stupid, gang.
They're all stupid.
But
Alice is like the most blatantly stupid one, I feel like.
What does it say about me that I kept relating to her then?
You are not stupid, Sam. It's just that Alice, I would argue, might actually be the second least awful person. Again, she's just kind of dumb. It gives off the sense that she is trying her best, at least. She's just very...
not evil.
Yeah.
There's that bit where, like, and it's a funny bit where, you know, B tells everyone that her mom has BPD, and, like, Alice immediately, like, tries to make it about her, but, like, you could read that as empathizing in a really shitty way. You know, like, I don't think Alice was malicious in the way that Jordan was.
She's trying her best. She's just
Mhm.
kind of dumb. And I feel like, to a certain degree, we all kind of feel that way sometimes. Like, I know when I'm feeling at my most anxious when I'm trying to sound smart, and I'm not sure if it's really landing. I'm just like, oh god, this is how I sound, isn't it?
What's going to happen to Alice's podcast now?
It's going to become the basis for a murder pod.
I guess they'll have to find the second smartest friend they have.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, literally, her podcast is dedicated to her friendship. Are you kidding me? I can't hate Alice.
Well, there's two ways that you can take that. One is that it's dedicated to her friendship. The other, which is the way that I wound up leaning by the end of the movie, is that she's trying to present herself as the smartest friend.
Yeah, because, like, she's talking about coordinating guests, which to me suggests that she's inviting people to talk to her. And they can't all be her smartest, coolest friend. So the implication is that she's their smartest, coolest friend?
Oh, I guess that makes a certain sense, but
Yeah, the implication I got from hanging out with your smartest, coolest friend is like, you, as the listener, are hanging out with me, your smartest, coolest friend.
Or same.
Okay, that also kind of tracks, but, like, still kind of egotistical and, like,
oh yes.
totally understandable why Jordan would go, ugh. Because, Jazz, Ellie, I can't speak for the two of you, but if I'm remembering, I pretty much from day one had a very concrete pitch for how this podcast was going to run. I had my little gimmick.
Mhm.
Right.
And I knew that the gimmick could not be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mine and Jasmine's too. Like, there's this really great Mooncat video about, God, I can't remember the weirdo in, like, capitalism influencer.
Do you realize how little that narrows it down?
Gary V, that's his name. And, like, there's this interview that he gives where he's like, my advice to you is talk into your phone and make that into a podcast. I'm like, that sounds like fucking torture. Like, just whatever thoughts I have in my...
What?
Yeah. It was like, he was like, just, his point was make content.
So what, make My Dinner with Andre the podcast?
Evidently.
Ugh!
I like My Dinner with Andre.
My dinners with Andre.
I don't like My Dinner with Andre. It has entirely to do with a terrible, terrible history of theater teacher that that's trauma to unpack when My Dinner with Andre eventually comes up on this podcast, because it can, and I will not like it, but I will watch it again. It will be a very easy movie to rewatch because I won't have to watch it.
I guess my point is, like, if you have a podcast and your gimmick is yourself as the host, your host has to already be someone people like to fucking listen to. Like, no
Yeah.
one's gonna tune into a podcast to just listen to whatever's on my mind. I have to have a point, and even then, they're not going to tune in. But they're they'll have less reason not to.
Oof.
We're building our brands right now, okay?
Yep.
It's really hard. You gotta get the word out.
You have to schedule guests, and you have to make a Google Calendar, and it's really hard.
God.
We should
Again.
probably have a Google Calendar.
Probably get a Google Calendar.
Point.
And so you can, like, message me once a month and go, like, Ellie, why are we on each other's podcast 6 times this month?
I mean, Grady, would you want that? Would you want to be on a Google Calendar with all three of us being like, and we're doing this date, and this date?
I am horrible about keeping track of things, so it might be helpful.
Duly noted.
Yeah, that's the problem when your friend group is primarily queer, neurodivergent people. Nobody pays attention to anything on our date.
Damn.
Okay, the train to Tangent Town is pulling into the
Yep.
station.
I mean, we're kind of, like, exhausted talking about this movie unless we want to get into specific details about stuff. It's well shot.
It really is. I love how the camera just keeps on circling everybody when they try to hide in the car. That was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I will appreciate that for the most part, the fact that this is shot primarily in darkness with only, like, their little phone lights and the exit lights for light sources, I can still tell what's going on. It's not, a fucking Game of Thrones situation. But there are some moments where I'm still like, why is it so fucking dark?
Oh yeah.
And there's one moment that I absolutely loved. It's at the end when B mumbles out her last line, which is just the one thought that is managing to cohere inside her head. And then the sprinkler system behind her kicks on.
Just checking the budget. No list of the budget, just the box office, 14 million.
They've stopped putting the budgets on Wikipedia, and it's bumming me out.
That is so weird. But no, speaking of Bee and Sophie, just the ending scene where Sophie's trying to find Bee when she's, trying to escape her because she's just like, oh god, what if it's you? Which, I'll admit, for a good chunk of this time, I thought that Sophie might be the killer. And just, that was so
I'm looking on IMDb trying to see if the budget is there. And apparently to practice the bit with the champagne bottle, Lee Pace practiced using Thranduil's sword from The Hobbit.
God.
I
That's
love
so
that
cool.
so much.
Lee Pace, I love you so much.
I mentioned single white female earlier because they were doing a really good job of raising the possibility that Bee was trying to get into a relationship, to get into the social circle, etc. And she was being more of an infiltrator than an actual girlfriend, which is, of course, why they have the subplot about her having lied about the job thing.
Yep.
And also, like, that thing about the sweater that she wears after she changes out of her murder shirt.
Yeah, that too. Okay, I went to Box Office Mojo, and
Budget of $3 million is what I found.
This has a smaller budget than Bound?
Wow.
well, they did have more locations in Bound.
Yeah, one more. They leave the apartment building.
Yeah, but they
once.
had I think a bigger cast in Bound, so
Well,
that could have also accounted for it. But like,
I mean, like Joey Pants was an established like name at that point. Only Pete Davidson is probably the most mainstream famous person in this movie.
I'm staring daggers at you through the internet, Ellie, because you cannot disrespect Lee Pace like that.
I love Lee Pace and Amanda Stenberg with all my heart, but Pete Davidson is more famous than both of them. I'm sorry, he is. That sucks. It makes me unhappy. But most people, like if I went and asked my uncle and aunt, they would not know who Lee Pace is.
Pushing Daisies, we have failed you.
We have failed Pushing Daisies. I mean, his most famous role is probably still as Thranduil. He's not a big part of those movies.
And even Grady didn't recognize him.
The facial hair, I guess, but it's and he didn't sound like any of the other roles I've seen him play. So, hat tip to the guy for doing a great job.
That is also really fair, yeah.
It is well acted. He's a good actor, but like they're all doing great jobs. I feel like this is one of those movies where like dark satire movies kind of live and die on their cast. I am looking at you, Showgirls. See me after class. And like the whole cast is on exactly the right wavelength they need to be. And I think that really like is what kept it going for me. Again, I went into this movie with very low expectations because the ad campaign made it look atrocious. And I wound up liking it a lot.
What's that thing of like, the reason comedy is funny is because the characters still treat the scenes like life and death? I guess this is the logical extension of that.
That makes so much sense, yeah.
I mean, like, some of my favorite horror comedies are like, what's a good example? Like, the John Dies at the End books are funny books because the characters say funny things about their situations, but there's never, like, a moment where they'll talk shit to a demon with the note that this thing could absolutely obliterate them without trying. Like, they still take the situation seriously. And I think that the movie does that, but it also, like, it knows how to be funny about it. It knows how to make Jordan's voice break when she says that Sophie cheated, and it knows how to make Rachel Sennott spit that your parents were upper middle class like it's a slur. Like, that's the wavelength it needs to be on. This is trivial, but it's important to these people for some reason.
Yeah, this movie rocks. This was such an insane roller coaster ride, and again, it still just boggles my tiny mind. All of this was started with a stupid fucking TikTok and a sword.
Maybe they should ban it. That's a joke.
Don't even joke about that, Ellie. You know, the TikTok ban is just a thinly veiled internet censorship bill that's going to come after not only sex workers, but also trans people too, in a larger attempt to control the internet.
I am 100% aware. I was just going to go with my usual joke. I'm not on TikTok. The only TikToks I watch are a Canadian butch woman chopping wood and a Bermudan twink screaming at his recipes.
Hey, good choice. I love B. Dylan Hollis.
That's it.
Well, Jazz has already kind of tipped fair hand on this, but is the Force with it?
It is, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have to say no. It didn't do it for me, because while the satire might have been effective, to compare this with another movie that has a kind of similar thing, The Worst Person in the World, I don't really enjoy movies about terrible people.
That's so valid.
This is a moment where the Schadenfreude, it is not working for me.
Totally fair.
Maybe because I feel like a little too seen by some of it. Like,
Oh.
I was able to turn on the Atlas just now. Y'all saw it.
Podcasting's really hard.
Oh, God.
So like, I can totally get why this wouldn't be someone's speed. It's very much like Ingrid Goes West in that it's a satire on Gen Z and like internet culture. It's just so mean-spirited that it can be kind of hard to watch at times.
Some people don't like Sour Patch Kids, and this is that in movie form.
Okay, that's a terrible comparison, though, because I love Sour Patch Kids. I once had so many Sour Patch Kids that I, like, burned a patch in my tongue.
Well, that means you like them as candy, but not as movies.
I mean, I don't know if this really has its then there's sweet moment. If anything, it starts sweet, but then gets sour.
It's sweet for, like, 1 fucking second, but let's reroute that train. Who has Pluggables?
If you haven't seen Bottoms, see Bottoms. And
Yeah.
if you want to
love
find my
Bottoms.
ramblings, I am Snakebit Cat on most of the socials.
I am the host of A Niche Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. And you can find us wherever pods are cast. And I am Faye Riviera on all the socials. And my parents, too, are upper middle class.
I am on Twitter, Blue Sky, Medium, and Letterboxd at LSR42. I'm on Tumblr at Football in Tuxedos with dashes between them. I did not change it to avoid my cancellation. And I'm also the host of The Biggest Night in Podcasting, where we watch a randomly selected Oscar-winning movie and talk about it. I've got Jasmine on our episode on the Portrait of Dorian Gray coming up. Picture, damn it.
The picture, yep, I was going to say you did it.
And I've
You
also
managed
got...
to not do it during the episode, shockingly.
And I've got Sam on an episode on In the Heat of the Night coming out before that. So we're this sister podcast has a lot of crossovers.
As for me, I will ask that you keep the spirit of Star Wars alive by supporting artists through the Entertainment Community Fund, and by taking action to support anti-imperial and anti-colonial movements across the globe, partially by using links provided below, and by taking action in your community. And you can find me on the wider internet as La Femme Fictionale, including on YouTube, Twitter, and Tumblr, where you can also find the blog for this show. Our theme music is provided by Refractory Period, the two girls' one-beat synth-pop sensation. You can follow them on Instagram at Refractory Period the band. To further support this podcast, please subscribe to us on your platform of choice, leave reviews, and share with your friends to boost our visibility. And consider joining Patreon, where you can get early access to our bi-weekly recaps of The Acolyte as it airs. And now it's time to turn to the Chance Cube to decide where our journey takes us next. Before I roll, Ellie, Jazz, each of you has ascended from Padawan to Knight of the Order of 6 Degrees of Star Wars. That means that you have the option before your next ascension through the ranks to pick one time where you choose the degree, though not the movie. Do either of you want to pick what degree we go to next?
Not
I think
this
I'm going
time.
to save mine still.
All right, you're both going to save it, so...
It's a 6.
That's a 6.
It's a 6, so next up... This is almost too perfect. Next up is Gaslight.
Whoa.
Unbelievable.
What's next? Narcissist?
Well, go enjoy being gaslit, gate kept, and girl boss.
We will see you all next time. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, stay beautiful, and may the Force be with you.
A podcast takes a lot of work, okay?